Welcome back to the Cricket Betting Podcast for CrickStats.ai. This is the only podcast which tells you exactly what happens in the biggest games of cricket all over the world and gives you free betting tips which actually win. I'm Ed Hawkins. Say hello to Paul Krishnamurty, whose best bets on this podcast are up a massive 27.1 points. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you. And let's say hello to Richard Mann. Landed a nice couple of winners from last week's show. Start moving back towards the red. Hello, Richard.
Evening. The comeback is on.
Here we go. It is no swank, folks, to say that people say that we're the three best cricket betting brains around, and we've plugged ourselves into AI to go inside the matrix to work for you and find those winners. We're using CrickStats.ai's powerful betting tools to make a match made in hell for those bookmakers. So get signed up to crickstats.ai so you can do exactly the same and use those tools. Use POD25 as a discount code to start saving money and then winning money. Right, what is on the show? We've got 4 games for you. We're in the Caribbean for the CPL for Trinbago Knight Riders versus Falcons. Then we're back to England for 2 matches in the 100. It's Rockets versus Phoenix and Brave versus Fire, dead rubbers both, but we'll talk about how to bet those types of matches. And then we're also going to look ahead to the Tuesday T20, England versus the South Africans, first T20 of the series. We're talking teams, pitches, trades, stats, nuggets, and player win rates for all those games. But let's go to Paul Krishnamurty. Have you been, Paul? Thought you might like to start off, just give a little bit of a flavour of our VIP Telegram channel, which folks can sign up to and get winners straight to their phone. How are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Busy at the moment, obviously, working all the hours with these different time zones. But so this is what we're doing. For the VIP channel, we put out a tip for every game that is live on UK TV, right? And in addition to that, I mean, that could be anything. That could be a player performance. We do a lot of player performances, a lot of total runs, sometimes some match winner. But then in addition to that, we'll also put out in-play tips. And what this gives, for example, an opportunity to do is when, as we did it to great effect in the England-India Test series, is do like runs trading systems, get in at one price, get out at a higher price, set up a middle, create the opportunity to win both ways. So that's been going very well. We've only been going a couple of months, not even quite a couple of months. We're still early days. We're still really teething. I think, we can improve it, but we're well over 30 points up now, about 12% ROI, and I'm sure there's more to come.
Yeah, there is going to be more to come, I think. That is for sure. We're honing it and we take it dead seriously. The 100 has been taken very seriously. We have found an angle on that. You have to join the VIP to find out what that angle is. Paul mentioned it. He gave you a little bit of a clue there. The 100 is coming to an end. Richard, does anybody like it? I mean, you're a punter. You're not quite sold on it, are you? I mean, lots of punters aren't sold on it either.
No, I mean, look, I like the concept. Franchise competition, England needed that. One game a day, or one, and then the women's game as well. Real focal point. It's been good for lots of different markets that you don't get in the Blast, for example, which is another comp that I follow closely. But I don't like the format, the 100-ball format. That's got to go. I suspect it'll go next year anyway. And that has been a real challenge for punters first off, but I think it's been a challenge still for the teams as well and the players. They're not used to playing it. And if they're struggling a little bit with it, particularly chasing and trying to work out what they need, then obviously we're going to struggle as well, aren't we? So it has been a challenge. And actually, when you're going on talking about our VIP, I'm pretty pleased that we have found a way through to navigate it. Like from my own personal point of view, I've not been able to land that big one, that big 50-1 top bat that you maybe get in some other competitions. It's been really frustrating like that. First few weeks were really hard going, but as I say, we found an angle, we found a way through it. Found some really good trends for the grounds, which still apply. Paul mentioned last week, so we've made it pay, but it has been harder work.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, Richard. I remember thinking about this last week. There just hasn't been one of those top bat wins, and you really expect to see it as tired pitches come into play. You get to the tail end of the tournament, someone chipping in with 20 or 30 to win it. Number, or have I missed it? I really don't think I have. Has there
Well,
been one?
I think Jamie Overton has won for the Spirit tonight, or he was on
Okay.
track to win just to get up.
Yes.
But I mean, he might have been 25s. I mean, he's a designated finisher, maybe not even that. But no, it's been frustrating. I mean, we went with the Welsh Fire theory for a while, and Chris Green, and had some opportunities to perhaps win that market. But no, I don't know if it's just one of those things, or maybe he's just going to be stick to this competition and we'll maybe avoid that next year. The other thing people I know I've seen a lot on social media have been really frustrated about some of the big guns haven't performed, the Vinces and the Duckets. But I don't actually attribute that to the 100. I just think that happens when people are playing so much cricket. You see it in the Big Bash, good players come and go and they'll struggle for form and Duckett fired last year in this competition, similar prep, he just out of form, isn't he? And that's just the way it goes. I wouldn't blame the 100 for that.
So 100 coming to the end. We do expect Oval Invincibles to win it. They're in the final, confirmed. Two previews of the 100 to come in this show, but we're going to the Caribbean Premier League now. So CPL is underway, and I think those things hold true that we've just talked about. That later on in this tournament, tired pitchers, I'm sure we will get top bat wins at big prices. We're going to start with the Caribbean Premier League outright check. Trinbago Knight Riders are 13-8 generally as favourites. Guyana are picked for the final. All three of us are in agreement. Then 9-4 to win the title with Ladbrokes Kings, 8-1 Betfred. Falcons 12, Ladbrokes Coral. Barbados Royals, who started poorly, 16-1 generally. Then Patriots 22 is Sky Bet, Paddy Power, Betfair Sportsbook. Look, Paul, explain that Guyana price. What is going on?
Well, it's what we've always said about Trinbago being oversold, and they've done okay, Trinbago. But for me, Ghana should be favourite. I think that also the bigger picture here is that there is an enormous class gulf here. I think that St Kitts are virtually out. They've got to win at least 3 games, probably or 4. I think Antigua and Barbuda, we'll talk about them more in a minute, but they're not up to it at all. Barbados started terribly. And so, you do really it does very much look like Ghana. I'm very confident that our Guyana bet, we put them up at 7-4 in the VIP to get to the final. That's 2-1 on now. Very confident of that. And I think you have to rate Trinbago to be, like the most likely team to be in that final with them. I would just say on those prices, a couple of things there though. First of all, I think 8-1 St. Lucia is still a reasonable bet there. I think they will qualify, and they're not going to be any shorter than that in the last 4. And there's a long way to go. They haven't played many games. They could well finish top 2 still. And I think also, regarding to finish bottom, now I put up in the best bets St Kitts at 4-1. That's now 11-10. Really think that's solid. They've only got 4 points from 7, so they've got to win at least really 2 out of the last 4 games to avoid finishing bottom, I think. And they've played Antigua and Barbuda, the easiest game, twice. And you look at the next 3 games; they're hard. I think they're rooted for bottom again.
Yeah, just on that, Guyana, why we like them, they'll play the final potentially. They make the final at their home ground and the playoffs at their home ground as well. So they have a massive advantage in that regard. And Paul talking about Pats, there is this weird sort of imbalance in this tournament that Patriots have played 6 games already, and then we've only seen Guyana twice. Knight Riders have played only 3, Royals only 3. So it's all over the place really, but Patriots are 4th, but they've won 2 out of 6, so they are really struggling. Rich, any spots or just want to talk up Guyana?
No, I agree about Guyana. You took the words out of my mouth regarding home advantage. We're kind of waiting for it to get going though, aren't we? We've had 4 rained off already. It's been really frustrating because, well, from the VIP, we've identified what we thought was good player performance value, and then you wake up the next morning, our Paul's been staying up and covering it. It's been rained off, so kind of ready for the thing to get going actually.
Yeah, and we now have to start to get to grips with a new venue. The Jamboree moves on to Taruba. So Paul Krishnamurti is going to have a Taruba lowdown for us. What have you got, Paul?
Well, historically, this is the low scoring ground. If in all of our categories, first innings runs, total sixes, this is ranks bottom by a long way, by some margin. In fact, if you look over the 5-year study sample, there's only been one more first innings total of 160 or more than there is of 100 under 120. So it's a real extreme unders place. However, slight words of warning about this. A lot of those games were in the World Cup, so they involved associate teams, but also this may have changed in recent games because we had a couple of games between Windies and South Africa last year, both saw 170 plus totals, and we saw this ground against Pakistan in the 3-match ODI series, not exactly the same format, but it wasn't bad for run scoring or six hitting. Sometimes it looked slow, but it wasn't terrible even on used pitches. So be a bit careful, but I would still say compared to the other grounds, this is the low scoring ground.
So do we wait and have a look then, Paul? Just because we've got plenty of options coming up with Taruba. Let's have a look at the pitch, see what it does. We'll watch the game. We can tell from our eyes. We'll be able to tell from the scorecard. And then do we play for the second game, third game, or?
Well, that is I mean, broadly, that is what I think. But at the same time, I think some of the odds are completely wrong here in this game, which we will get to in a minute, because they've priced it as if it was Groves Islet, and it just isn't. Even with the better scores, it isn't. So, I'm not saying steam into extreme unders straight away because it might not be that bad, but bear it in mind. And if it is slow and it starts looking like the past 150, you've really got to be looking at under 130, under 120.
All right, then. Trimbago v Falcons Wednesday. That's 00 hours. Taruba 4-9 Trimbago General, 15-8 Ladbrokes Coral 10 bet on Falcons. Falcons won the head-to-head this season by 8 runs. Trimbago expected to line up something like this: Monroe, Hales, Paran. I think asterisk by Hales' name on dodgy surfaces. Definitely a run short for me. Carty Pollard, who's been sensational. Russell is back in the team. Akil, Edwards, Nareen, Amir, and Tariq. Falcons, Andrew, Cornwall, Kareem Agor, who's been fantastic, the American batsman. Bevan, Jacobs, Shakib Al Hassan has also been doing some good work with Imad and Fabian Allen. Durable is the word, perhaps, for Falcons. Shamar Springer, that is, Usama Mir, Obed McCoy, and Seals. Paul, Trimbogo let backers down badly, big odds on collapse, failure. No, talking about the outright, they're overrated by the market. The market seems to think it's 2020 or 2019, and it's not. They're old, this team.
Well, yes, and I hear you, and that is my general feeling about them. But I went into that first game thinking they just look a class apart. This Antigua side is really ordinary. And I don't know how they lost that game. Well, I do know. I mean, really, it was in that game, it was Fabian Allen and Imad. We'll see him completely turn the Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda innings around. I still think they are a poor side, though. I don't think they've got many runs, and I think that top order is really poor. Kareem Agor has been good. But they are second best. And, another thing is that this pitch historically has always been pretty spin friendly. Trimbago looked very strong here with Narayan Akil and Usman Tariq.
Rich, surprised by the Falcons? You're going to bet them here?
I was tempted actually. Paul's putting me off a little bit, but I like them. I think they've got a real good team nucleus. I love that experienced middle order trio of all-rounders, Shakib, Imad, and Fabian Allen. I think they're all right. I actually think they're all right. And when you're looking at 15-8 and you wouldn't trust Trimbago, I think they're bordering on a bet. The thing is, I think if Taruba's what we think it might be, low scoring, 140 players, 140 game, I think that suits the Falcons. I don't think they could win an arm wrestle at Gross Islet consistently against this Trinbago team, but I think in a low scorer, I think it would suit them. And I'd definitely give them a puncher's chance. Talking myself into betting them there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's go Nuggets. We were actually discussing this morning when we record about Trinbago in a double for most sixes with Oval Invincibles to beat Spirit, which has happened. But we could only get it on with one firm, so he swerved it. Possible double if we can find them a bedfellow at 8-13 with 365, Paul, or talk to me about something entirely different if you like.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, Trinbago did win most sixes in that game against them earlier, even when they lost. There is not much six-hitting potential in this Antigua side, whereas Trinbago, that's their strength. Look at it, Munro, House, Poorman, Pollard, Russell, Narayan, even they've got sixes in them. So I like that, but I prefer, and I think this is the bet of the week, under 7.5 Antigua sixes at 4-5. The reason I say that is the ground, because talking about it being the unders ground, in 5 years, 39 matches, so a big study sample, only 10 matches saw 15 or more sixes. And we didn't see an insane amount of sixes, even in those high scoring games that I mentioned. So the idea that Antigua and Barbuda, the line is 7.5, when they're clear outsiders for this market, that's just got to be wrong. I'd probably have it at 5.5.
There you go. Bet of the week already as we preview our first game. Richard, what have you got?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think we looked at that last week, didn't we? And their average is something like 4.22 from memory. I've deleted my notes, I'm afraid, but that looks a really solid bet. Player performances, I mean, Puran, he's 33.5 with Bet365. We were talking before I went on there. The Bet365 line is considerably shorter than elsewhere. If you can get it, I think he might be 8 out of the last 10 where he's beat this line. He's wicket keeping. So even when he hasn't been making big runs, and he generally makes big runs in this format, he's doing the business. And Kareem Gore, 22.1 player performance. Loads of ways you could play him. We'll talk about him in the tops in a minute, but he's averaging 38 player performance points in the last 10. He's just been absolutely superb. That looked quite low to me, 22.1.
Right, let's go to players to follow. Paran mentioned by Richard there. On top bats, the last 2 years, the win rate is down at 34%, 11-4 Sky Bet Power, Betfair Sportsbook. Do we keep going with Paran? Get views on that in a second. Justin Greaves, who we've been talking about consistently on the VIP, been betting him at big numbers, but been getting money back on non-runner. With basically no one knows where Justin Greaves is. Won 4 out of the 7 last season. We would expect him to open. We were getting 15-2. Unfortunately, everyone, the secret is out. He's now 18-5. Bet Victor. Dre Russell, the same price for top bowler, with the same firm for TKR. I think that is probably a prize he gets wins in this market. But players to follow, Paul, and answer that Paran question.
So just on the players to follow, first of all, well, I want to look at big prices for Antigua batsmen. 14-1 Fabian Allen is interesting, very versatile, sometimes comes up the order, so hope it's on there. Also, they've got Andrews Gauss now. They've just signed him, and that actually does improve them. Now, I think he batted at 4 in the first game, so maybe it wouldn't on that, but normally he's an opener, and their top order's been terrible. So I quite like the 11-2 there. I like for man of the match, because I am quite confident that Trinbago will win this. I think there's value in a few Trinbago players here. 16-1 Usman Tariq, who's been by far their best bowler so far. 14-1 Kyron Pollard, who looks in very good form. And given the emphasis on spin previously at this ground, even 10-1 Sunil Narayan doesn't look terrible. As for Poorad, I mean, you should stick. I want to stick with him, but at the same time, he came in at 4 last time. That's a negative, isn't it? I don't really like taking 3-1 on number 4s. So maybe swerve, but he's going to win sooner or later, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's going to win. Richard, players for you.
Well, I mean, Kareem Gore is the wrong price, 7-2 Sky Bet. top Falcons, batted well 4 out of the last 5. He almost plays that anchor role. I know it's a dirty word in this format, but it's great for top batsman betting. He looks a really good player. The other one down the order, though, at big price, Springer, probably batting number 8. He's been going off 33. He's had a little tickle actually on Sunday and he didn't get in. That's fine, but he can hit a long ball. Paul's talking me into thinking that maybe Trimbago run through them here, so that might open up that avenue. It might be one for later in the season, but he can bat, and I was having a look at some of his domestic scores as well. So value's hard to find in these markets down the order now. I definitely think it's been tightened up over the last year or so, but he looked interesting at 33s.
Okay, we are underway. A reminder to sub up to crickstats.ai. Use the discount code POD25 to get all that cricket betting data at your fingertips. Check out the VIP Telegram channel in the comments below and the free channel as well. Do give us some love on the pod provider of your choice as well, please. England versus South Africa, thoughts to come and those best bets. But back we go to the 100 now with 2 games. We start Phoenix v Rockets, Trent Bridge, 18:30 on Wednesday. Rockets expected to line up something like this if they do decide to go with the same 11. They could rest players. Of course, they are basically in the semi-final against Superchargers. But Root, Banton, Rahan, Holden, Moores, George Lynn, Stoinis, Willie, Hayne, Cook, Ferguson. There is a bit of a clue into this weakness with the Rockets side there, with Sam Hayne all the way down at number 9. They're just not using him. Surely if they try and find a better bowling option, maybe they might use Calvin Harrison or Callum Parkinson for this game because of what the pitch will do. We'll get to that in a second. Phoenix may well rest Duckett, giving Annarin Donald a go. I put him in R11 anyway. Donald, Smead, Clark, Livingston, Bethel, Mousley back in the team, Patterson, White the spinner, Howell, Chris Wood, Mill and Bolton. Tim Southey has decided, well, with nothing to play for, he's going to put his feet up. 4 to 5 Rockets, Hills, Labrooks, Coral, Phoenix 5 to 4 General. This is a dead rubber for both teams. Pitch report in a second. Don't think I ever asked this question before, Richard, but dead rubbers, you put you off betting, or Phoenix can just play with total freedom and produce something amazing? How do you see them?
Well, no, it can usually. I mean, we talked about it in the Test series, didn't we? With England, got a real poor record at back end of series, so it is something to consider. For me, though, Phoenix, I know they had a good win at Old Trafford on Sunday, but that was a bad pitch, and Manchester Originals were just found wanting against spin. But I don't like the Phoenix. I think they're a car crash waiting to happen. You just watch them in the field against the Originals. The old saying goes, you can judge a team by the fielding, and I think they dropped 4 catches, and Livingston was just a shocker. I mean, they were just all over the place, and Originals were just worse. And I think here against Rockets, who are a pretty good side, I think they'll be found wanting. I think they'll be spun out, actually. We're going to do the pitch report, but it's worth bearing in mind. Trent Bridge usually one of the best places in England for runs. But Andy Flower and the team they're wanting spinning pitches and they're getting them. And I think it'll be hard work for Phoenix's batting lineup.
Okay, let's move to that pitch report then. It could be a raging turner, as Richard has suggested. A bit of number work, 15 and 35 wickets to spin at Trent Bridge in this tournament. Rahan's taken 4 of them. It is very slow. Not my words, the words of Joe Root as Manchester Originals made 98 for 8 in the last game there. Paul, how do we make a raging turner pay?
Well, you go unders, and it has been unders anyway, as Rich was saying. 3 of the last 6 first innings have been under 140. The par lines, the early par lines with Betfair and Paddy Power 141 and 139. But the real standout line, this won't last, so just fill your boots if you can get it. But Betfred have gone up under 13.56s at 11 to 10. This is just completely wrong. Win 16 out of 19 at Trent Bridge on all surfaces, and generally they've been really good batting surfaces. So that's a massive unders. I think the line will be more like 11.5, maybe even 10.5. Still probably an unders. But yeah, if that's what we're expecting, then 140 is a big ask, isn't it?
A massive ask. Richard, how do we make it pay?
Yeah, I'm unders, but extreme unders, particularly Phoenix. I watched the originals match here a couple of weeks ago, expecting runs. We got runs here in the blast, and it was the Sky comms that said Andy Flower's been asking for spinning pitches. That's what the Rockets want. It's not good entertainment, but here we are. And I think the Phoenix, they'll just be found wanting against this really good Trent Rockets team. 139.5 Phoenix match runs with Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. They've only beat that twice this season. That was at Edgbaston and Leeds, probably the two best grounds for batting. Trent just spun all season. I just don't think they get close. And I would play that line, but if you can get the liquidity on Betfair or Coral and Star Sports have been quite good as well at offering runs bands in the hundreds, so they're great. If you want to play real extreme unders like 120, maybe even 110, you might get something there.
Uh, Phoenix issue, by the way, in the tournament is they just didn't have a world-class spinner. Certainly didn't have a world-class wrist spinner, which you so often need in franchise tournaments. They relied on kind of auxiliary spin bowlers. Players to follow may be influenced by the pitch. Root, notable player of spin at 11 to 4, Unibet, Sky Bet, Paddy Power, Betfair, Sportsbook, top Rockets. But I think it's very interesting that the three of England's test players have only found real form in the last week. That's Duckett and Brook as well. I think they're both top batters in the last week. Duckett certainly hadn't before. Pretty sure Brook hadn't won up until that point. Looking at spin bowlers, George Lind, 6 to 1 Unibet, Bell Sports Virgin Bet for Rockets. That's way too big. An international spin bowler, Rahan, 92, Betfred for the most wickets for Rockets. Richard, who are your players to follow?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Tom Moores for the home side Rockets around 10 to 1. He's just a brilliant player of spin, and I think he'll go up the order if it's a real test of spins. I think he's top scored once already. He's actually in for Tom Alsop, an injury replacement. We thought Moores was going to have to go back to county cricket, but at the moment that hasn't happened. Keep an eye on him. 10 to 1. Liam Livingston, player performance. I know I've just given him a spray there, but 29.5 in the player performance. He dropped 2 catches in the last game, but yet his last 5 player performance points, 44, 16, 85, 66, and 99. He can bowl off spin and leg spin, so I think his bowling as much as his batting will be key here, but he'll get in because they're struggling with the bat anyway.
Paul, who have you got?
Again, right, this can't guarantee this stuff will last, but fill your boots while you can. So you mentioned the Nyrin Donald. I've got him down 50 to 1 top match batsman with Boyle Sports and Sky, and 12 to 1, even 12 to 1 top Phoenix batsman. I think is pretty generous. Betfred. And then you get to Trent Rockets. Look at some of these. George Lind, 40 to 1 in a low scoring game. You'd have some of that. 20 to 1 Hayne. I know he's been batting down there, but he could easily be moved up, couldn't he? 12 to 1 Max Holden sometimes comes in at 4. 10 to 1 Moores. I think clearly they don't know what they're doing. Oh, 100 to 1 Calvin Harrison, I see as well. Another one.
Well, he's an all-rounder, Calvin Harrison.
Yeah.
Is this the group of games then that we get one of these massive top bat wins, or maybe it comes in game 2 in the 100, which is on Thursday? That's Brave versus Fire. It's another dead rubber. It's Southampton 18-30, Brave 8 to 11 generally, Fire 6 to 5, Brave lining up something like this. Deploy Vince, Roy, Coles, Evans, Cartwright, Bracewell, Thompson, Coverton. I've got Timmer Mills coming in for Jofra Archer. Suspect he might be rested with England duty coming up. Topley, Fire, Eskenazi, probably should have got him in earlier. Smith, Bairstow, Abel, Tom Coder, Cadmore, Kellaway. Richard's a fan of Kellaway. Green back up the order now. We were backing him early for top bats at big prices. Payne, Josh Hull, and Meredith. There's no Matt Henry. I don't know what's happened to him. Presumably, absolutely has to be injured. Otherwise, he'd be playing. Batting tricky at Southampton. Scores of 106, 139, 133. Another low scoring pitch. Potentially enabling those big top bat prices. Total runs an option with Betfair Sportsbook, Paddy Power, Sky Bet. Unders 141.5 for Brave runs. That looks high. Paul, what are you thinking? Fire have picked up a bit, actually.
Yeah, a little bit. Still think they're probably the worst team in it, though, all things told. There's a massive chaser bias at the Rose Bowl. 14 out of 19 games in the 100. So, especially given that we're expecting low scores, it's got to be a case of back the chaser, or you would expect to come in. And as you mentioned, those total match runs very 141, 136.5. It's very high. 8 of the last 9 first innings were sub 140 here.
Richard, what's gone wrong for the Brave? Been major disappointment.
Well, we said at the start of the tournament that could they win it if Vince didn't have a stellar campaign like he did last year when they still couldn't win it? And he's just not fired, has he, Vince? And the rest of the batting really has followed, so it's been really disappointing. I actually think fire of value here. I mean, you won't believe me saying that because I've slagged them off all season, but I think they've picked up. They probably should have beat the Rockets at the weekend, who are a good yardstick anyway. They just look a bit more solid with the batting. They've got Eskenazi in now, and Kellaway's a great addition. They just look a bit better, and I think they're probably value here at odds against.
Any nuggets, Paul, and then Richard?
Apologies, 1 second. Steve Smith performance 20.5, completely and utterly wrong. As we have seen throughout the tournament, way too low.
Yeah, that's 365 again, 5 to 6. Richard?
Well, Paul messaged me earlier actually, asking if you could have the total runs on the Welsh Fire game, and I said you can have it because I've got them on all season. The only thing I've got right is that they're not very good, and they're probably going to finish bottom. But chasing the top bat with Chris Green and all that's gone wrong. Look out for Ben Kellaway. No prices yet. We may not get them player performance, but he's a gun fielder. And we've seen so often that catches are actually winning players' player performance markets. Steve Smith, a great example. Kellaway Fields in the hot spot, really good bowler. We haven't seen his batting yet because it hasn't been needed. But he's a really good player. And if he comes in with a bit of time to bat, actually, I'd be happy to play overs on his runs. Line might only be like 15 or 16. So he's a really good player. That's probably what I'll be looking to do.
Players to follow. We've mentioned Smith already. He's had a poor tournament. And not really shone in any game. Maybe perhaps against Phoenix he looked pretty good, but at that quote at 20.5, he doesn't even need to have a good game. He could win it with 2 catches and be out for 1. 11 to 4, Vince, top bat, Brave, could go the whole tournament without a blank on top bat. And I think that may well be a first for him, particularly for a player who was winning in rates of about 35-38%. Top bat, big prices. Jordan's 45s for top Brave. Can so often get a win in these tournaments. I've got Mills 16 to 5 power, Betfair Sportsbook for top bowler to end the tournament. How he started it, very good win rate. Smith, I mentioned 10 to 3. No outright win either for him. He did dead heat. That's Betfred. Green, our man, 28s. Bet Victor. Paul, who have you got?
Michael Bracewell 14 to 1 with Paddy's. We backed him in a few other games. Sometimes he comes in at 5. You want to back down the order. And I don't think he'll play, as you mentioned, but Matt Henry 125 to 1 with Betfred. It's an insane price.
Richard?
Yeah, Hill and Cartwright top Brave bat. I don't understand why he's still 12 to 1. He didn't win the last game, but he won the market the previous 2 matches. And Cartwright in the bash, he's one of those players when he gets on a hot streak, he generally keeps scoring. And then when he gets on a poor streak, he's generally poor. And he looks in really good touch to me. I just think 12s he's too big. About a middle order player in form in a misfiring batting lineup, particularly up top.
Right, which of those make it into the bookie bashing best bets? You can find out at the end of the show. Get your edge to take down the layers with that POD25 discount code for crickstats.ai, or just sign up to the VIP Telegram channel. England versus South Africa T20 series starts on Tuesday in Leeds. No prices just yet. We're expecting England to be favourites and probably hot ones at that. 8 to 11. May be best, but probably shorter elsewhere. England lineup could be Duckett, Smith, Butler, Brook, Bethel, Jacks, Rehan, Rashid. I expect they'll go with Bryden, Cast, and then Archer and Mahmood. South Africa, Pretorius, Rickleton, Markram. Those 3 could be interchangeable for the opening slot. Stubbs, Brevis, Donovan, Ferreira potentially has to come into this team ahead of Miller. That's something to look out for. Janssen, Bosch, Maharaj, Rabada, and Nagidi, and going for that final spot with Mapaka, I think. England have lost their last 3 versus South Africa in this format and lost 4 of the last 5. No prices yet, Paul, but you're probably lining up taking on England.
Yeah, I am absolutely. Is Did you know anything about Temba Bavuma? Is he in this squad?
I don't think he is in the squad. No.
Okay, that's a loss. That is a loss, to be fair. But I still think I think they're superior. I don't think England are very good at 50 overs these days. They haven't really since they won the World Cup. Got hammered by South Africa in the ICC Trophy. And while South Africa got hammered on Sunday in the dead rubber, they hammered Australia away from home in the first two. And I've said it before in other formats. I really do think South Africa as a cricketing nation are in a golden period. Won the World Test Championship. They've got such a good side here now. We've got so many good players coming through. And even in those wins over Australia, you didn't see all that they've got to offer. Like Tristan Stubbs and Jewel Brevis didn't do that much, and they will. And I think England really could be huge, terrible. If those are the odds, 8-11 England, I'm all over South Africa.
What could well be the odds. Let me just say, I have given you the T20 teams for that. Those lineups I've just done you. This is an ODI. Paul's absolutely right. So answering the question about Temba Bavuma for that South Africa squad, he is in it. He is in it. So, Rich, just set this one up for us.
Really looking forward to it. I don't know if the hundreds killed me or not, but this is really exciting. Just to me, just look like two really attacking, dynamic top sixes or sevens. I hope we get the pitches that we've had generally in England, not talking about the 100 ones, but just generally, because I think we could get some massive ones here. Two proper arm wrestles here. I mean, English fans might not be aware, but Brevis in the middle order for South Africa, he has been smacking it everywhere against Australia. He was smacking it everywhere in the IPL. Really looking forward to English fans getting a look at him. I'm with Paul. I'd probably favour South Africa on the assumption that they'll be quite big second favourites. But like England have got loads of power in there as well. So really looking forward to it. I think England's weaker suit is with the ball as well. So big runs, hopefully, if we get the pitches to suit.
And on pitches, actually, we do expect runs at Headingley. I mean, in T20, last run rates at 9 in the last 2 years. Richard, ground, well, what are we lining up for ODI bets on runs at Leeds?
Yeah, well, I think the both teams to score is massively in play here. Like last season, we got a few pitches towards the end of the summer at Leeds that got tired. And I've been waiting for that in the 100 with a little bit of dread, really, but it hasn't happened. They've just all been flat. The ball flies everywhere. I mean, Saturday's game in the 100 was just fantastic. So expect more of the same. For me, I don't think this is sort of a 280, 290, 300. I think these could go way past that proper extreme sort of teams. And maybe the other way as well, particularly with England, could have some major collapses. But it's such a flat pitch. I think, I don't want to say anything is possible, but I think the ceiling's pretty high with these batting lineups on this surface.
Paul, runs, middles potentially in this ODI at Leeds?
For once, I'm not so keen on the middles, actually, just because of the nature of Leeds. We do need to see the overheads. I think that if the sun's out, you've got to think that this is a 350 plus place from what we've seen in other cricket. All I would say is the only caveat I've got is we haven't got the odds yet out for this, right? So they might pinch those run lines really high. And if you remember when they played Australia at Headingley last September, it was nothing. It was 270 beat 202 or something like that. Really surprising. So perhaps it's a wait and see, but my general feeling is this is just runs galore. And like I say, South Africa in particular, I really think they have got huge totals in them.
What about players to follow? I only got a note really about Brevis in play and potentially taking on any lines on overs on sixes. You will get overs on fours in ODIs. Brevis will not die wondering whatever the format. It could be a very cheap, easy win. Rich, anyone jumping out from the coupon?
Well, I mean, look, it's as his critics, but Bavuma is particularly solid, particularly reliable. Always a good betting top batsman market. because he generally preserves his wicket a bit. Brevis is the X factor though. Bet365 doing that, sometimes doing that. More sixes in the team market. He's your one for that, Brevis. So yeah, looking forward to them. And Rabada's just rock solid as well for South Africa. He's a class apart with the ball for them for me.
Anything more to add, Paul?
No, I'm not particularly want to pick one player because I think there's a few players could go big, but the sixes line, I agree, very interested in going over there. And also, Bet365 do this player to hit most sixes in the match. That's where I would be interested in looking at Brevis and Stubbs.
Okay, I think that's teed up the England-South Africa ODI nicely. We're going to be back next week on the Cricket Betting Podcast with our Asia Cup Ultimate Betting Guide, which will tell you everything you need to know and things you didn't think you needed to know as well to bet on that one. We think it could be a really good tournament, potentially very profitable. We've got all the ground guys and win rates coming up for that on next week's show. But let's go to now those best bets. Paul and Richard have 5 units to spend, and Paul out in front gets to go first.
Okay, so under 7.5 Antigua and Barbuda sixes at 4-5 with Hills. I'll have that for 3 points. And then I will have 2 points on under 141.5 Southern Brave runs against Fire.
Richard.
Right, I will kick off. Sorry, just lost it there. Right, 1.5 points under 139.5 Birmingham Phoenix Max runs against Trent Rockets at 5-6, and half a point under 110 Birmingham Phoenix runs if they bat first. Try and get that either on the Betfair Exchange or Star Sports and Cole have now been offering those. So whatever seems the fairest deal for people, I will get it matched at that. Try and have a look on the Betfair Exchange though for that. Same game, a point Liam Livingston player performance over 29.5, 5-6. And then over to Southern Brave versus Welsh Fire, half a point Hilton Cartwright, top Brave bat at 12-1. That's with Bet Victor. And then in the CPL game, a point Nicholas Puran player performance, Jumbergo v Falcons over 33.5 at 5-6, 365. And then final half a point Karima Gall, stick with him, top Falcons bat at 7-2 general.
Terrific stuff. All those best bets do drop in our free Telegram channel, which you can subscribe to below. Also subscribe to the VIP channel and our discounts all over the shop on annual rates and monthly rates at the moment. Some really big savings on that. This has been the Cricket Betting Podcast with me, Ed Hawkins, Paul Krishnamurty and Richard Mann. We are back next week. Best of luck with the bets.